We like to ascribe function to things. We like to charge certain processes, organs, things in the world with responsibility for something. When it comes to the body, we can't do without the notion of function. Function is absolutely central to the enterprise of organismic biology. Indeed, our understanding of function is sort of centrally rooted in the insights of William Harvey, who first identified the circulation of the blood back in Renaissance times, and he had to argue for this very hard. After which it was possible to speak with confidence of a function of the heart. I assume that here we're all more or less on the same page, and that we can all understand what we mean when we say the heart's function is to pump blood. Now, evolution, of course, is a peculiar thing, because evolution is not a directed process. On our current understanding, there's no sense to be made of the idea that something might evolve for something. Nonetheless, when we see organisms successfully navigating a perilous world, they act in their own interests, and things serve functions for them because things matter to them. So if your heart stops functioning, your body dies. I won't say you die, because your Facebook page may live on, but your body definitely dies if the heart stops this task. So this gives us a good idea of how to frame our understanding of function. We cannot appeal to function. We cannot say that the function of X is such and such unless we have an appropriate frame. The frame in the case of the heart, is our shared understanding of the importance that the heart plays in the economy of the body. And we share the view that the economy of the body is something we are concerned with, something that we take for granted. The difference between a live body and a corpse matters to us. And therefore we as observers ascribe a function to the heart. So here's a question. What's the function of litter? It's horrible, isn't it? What is litter for? Would you ascribe a function of litter to litter? You probably would say that litter serves no function. But let me remind you again what I said about the heart. I said we can ascribe a function to the heart precisely because you and I share an understanding that the integrity of the living body is the frame within which a function can be ascribed. We don't have a frame for ascribing a function to litter, but if you lived among a pack of crows who occupy Glendalough car park, which regularly generates large amounts of litter, litter may well serve a function. It may have fed you and your parents before you. Litter might serve a function for someone who makes a living collecting it. So when we say litter has or has not got a function, the discussion makes no sense unless we have an appropriate frame for the group of crows, for the recycler. Litter has a function. For you and I, litter has no function. So it does depend on how we frame our observations. Let's turn to glucose. To the chemist, glucose is indicated there on the left. Glucose is a chemical molecule, one among very many kinds of chemical molecules. It is characterized by particular structures, particular properties. It doesn't have a function. A chemist would not ascribe, an inorganic chemist would not ascribe a function to glucose. But if you are a bacterium, glucose may well have a nutritive function. That is, it serves the purpose of the bacterium. So, when we say the heart is for pumping blood, that statement only has license because we have a background assumption that we share, that we are talking about this specific systemic perspective, the healthy human body matters. So function, any functional talk, requires framing. Functions do not simply exist although in popular discourse they are frequently wielded as if they do, and this introduces an awful lot of problems. Similarly, for a suitably disinterested perspective, glucose is not for anything. Chemists don't go around asking what is copper for, what is lead for. Sculptors go around asking what is copper for, but not chemists. For a bacterium swimming in a glucose-rich medium, glucose may well serve a function. It's for metabolism. But we can only lean on that notion of function if we have framed our observations appropriately and it's clear what the system is for which a given function matters. So function is a very, very important word here, and parenthetically, a similar point can be made with respect to the vexed term information. We often speak casually of information as if it was some substance in the physical universe. It's absolutely not, and any use of the term information needs similar caution in its application. So when we come to cognitive neuroscience, we will be looking to understand the brain. We'll be asking, what does the brain do? What functions can we attribute to the brain? And as we do so, we will try to make ourselves aware of our background framing and assumptions and recognize that when you frame an issue one way, you may identify a specific function, and if you frame it differently, you may see something different. Think of the litter in Glendalough car park. Now, this is something that popular discourse manages very poorly, and scientific discourse manages this very poorly. Scientists are actually terrible at providing the necessary framing considerations before they launch into talk of function. So please keep at least those two examples, the heart and the litter, in mind as we approach questions of function with a degree of caution, and we may also, and in fact we will, be rather hesitant to attribute function to the brain without a great deal of caution.